I'm Ashton Addison from EventChain for Investment Pitch Media and FinTech News Network. And today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Mark Homeier, CEO of Maxonrow. Mark, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you on today.
Hi, Ashton. Pleasure to be here. Thanks.
You're very welcome. I'd love to learn a little bit more about Maxonrow. First of all, in your words, what is the purpose of the Maxonrow project and how does it involve blockchain technology?
Okay, so the purpose behind Maxonrow was to provide a faster, better alternative for token issuers. And it's one that has KYC, AML verification built right into the system. So in the beginning of kind of projects coming out within blockchain space, there was a lot of advancement in mixing or intentionally obscuring the source of the funds. And on our team, we said, hey, what about the people who actually want to know what who the users are, or at least want to know that the users have gone through some sort of identity verification? And because we believe that's the type of system that's better for high value transactions and high value business.
Very interesting. And now, although you have a KYC, which is unique compared to most blockchains, as a transaction network, does Maxonrow, so to say, compete directly with something like the Ethereum blockchain?
You know, I wouldn't exactly say we compete with Ethereum, but we definitely would appeal to a lot of projects that have launched on Ethereum because you do have the advantage of having KYC verification on the chain. It also is faster. It's new generation technology, so it's more scalable. It's faster. We're actually built on a Tendermint consensus engine, so that is going to have a lot of basically good compatibility for future chains. And it's new. Ethereum is a pretty, it was one of the forerunners, and so yeah, we're not really directly competing with Ethereum. There's a lot of differences, but definitely would appeal to a lot of projects that have launched on Ethereum.
Interesting. And how much time has been put so far into the development of Maxonrow, and where are you guys at in the stage in the market?
So, the idea was kicked around a long time ago, but it really wasn't possible without some of the new developments in the platforms themselves. I think really about a year, a little less than a year of kind of really working on getting a solution out there. And the main chain wallet, we call it our core. The main chain, a wallet to go along with that, and an SDK to use that is going to come out in July. So we're pretty excited.
It's coming up really, really soon. So best of luck with that. Now, you have this KYC platform integrated into the core protocol of the blockchain, it seems. Are there other services besides KYC that are also added into this blockchain network?
Services, as to what services you can utilize from the blockchain, KYC, we think was the minimum that really everyone should go through in order to be able to transact items and value across different users. And really, we would have the ability to build more on top of the chain as we go. We're kind of waiting to see how the market reacts, and we'll actually have new features come out as we develop the main chain and as we onboard users.
Interesting. And do you foresee any challenges with having KYC on a blockchain? Do you see it as a mandatory KYC? Maybe people that are in the blockchain industry, for the nature of its anonymity and pseudonymity and how it's been with Ethereum and Bitcoin, that they may be opposed to having KYC on the blockchain?
Sure. I mean, look, there's a lot of reasons for some industries or some people to not want to have their identity and the history of their transactions ever findable. That's why people started using mixing or anonymizing protocols. But then really, blockchain is at a stage where it's either mass adoption or just niche. And we believe that for mass adoption, for putting real estate on the blockchain, for putting equity ownership on the blockchain, for a lot of the things that are going to start migrating into this space, it's essential to have identity. Now, you want it to be secure, you don't want it to be known, you don't want to have pure transparency. but you really do want to make sure that everybody in your ecosystem at some point has been identified, and that if there was illegal activities happening, you could actually pin them down to a person or a business. And that's really what started our idea, and that's where we're going to focus on when we develop.
Good point. And another thing that comes to mind when people hear KYC is this shift in the blockchain industry from utility tokens to security tokens. Now, does Maxonrow have the ability to have both utility and security tokens on it, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I think that's an amazing question, just because the industry is so broad, and blockchain it has such broad implications to actually applying it to real business. Yes, we can do utility tokens right away, and we are working towards having all the functionalities that security tokens need actually built into the chain as well in future releases, and that's going to be on our future. It's utility tokens, obviously the thing that is going to drive adoption in the short term, but really securities and having other types of assets connected and the ownership of those assets on the chain is what's going to fuel the long-term growth in the long term.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. Now, I was reading through your website and I saw the Maxonrow global meetups. What are these world meetups for, and who are you looking to attract to these meetups?
So the meetups are to build the community. I think one of the best things about blockchain is the community building around it. And the meetups are for people who maybe they're considering doing a token project and they don't know much about it. They want to understand more. Maybe there are people that are already in other, they've invested in different types of tokens, or they already own some and they want to expand. So it's really about learning more about the blockchain, and of course, it's selfish, it's our block meetups, so they're more about how to use Maxonrow to issue tokens and how to use the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So you're looking for more developers to develop decentralized applications on Maxonrow. What does the developer ecosystem look like? If you're looking for real estate applications or microfinancing and things like this, really nobody can use applications unless there is a strong development community that's built dApps on top of Maxonrow, right?
Yeah, so that's we're taking a bit of a different approach to bringing developers on. When we build the platform, we're actually building it with modules over time. And so originally, it's more of a utility token, but over time, we're building more and more modules that the developers themselves can utilize in their platforms. And really, we're trying to make it much more user-friendly. Right now, if you want to issue a token on Ethereum, you really do need to have some technical background. You really need to have some technical knowledge of how to do it. You have security challenges of getting your smart contracts right. We want to take it down a level in terms of complexity, and we're just huge capitalists in the token space. In other words, like the capitalist market should just be allowed to grow, and we want everybody to be able to issue their tokens on our network with that added safety that all the users have gone through some sort of a verification.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. And now, did you guys release a Maxonrow utility token or security token, and did you have an offering for that? And how did you build up the capital for the foundation?
The foundation itself is privately funded, and it's from donations from different interested parties. We haven't done an ICO, and we don't plan on doing an STO or an ICO in the future. But we are self-funding, and we have, the funny thing was, as soon as you attached identity to coins, we found that there was just a tremendous amount of interest, so much so that we really kind of have to turn people away from getting involved more than we have to look for people.
Wow, that's really interesting. And now, what is the business model, or how is the company going to grow and sustain itself moving forward? Is there like a software as a service application based revenue model to it, or does the KYC have some cost to it? How is the company going to drive revenues?
So in terms of future revenue growth, we are going to have the platforms themselves be our revenue generators. And the original, we have enough funding to develop all the platforms ourselves right now, so that's not a real concern for us. The real thing is, digital assets, securities. People are really talking about these, and some people are getting into it a little bit. There's a lot of what I'd call initial interest in the industry, but those are not so easy. Those platforms aren't, and so we're focusing on 2 or 3 years down the road when people want to list their houses on a blockchain network, when people want to sell their commercial property, when people want to issue securities, that actually our platform is one of the friendliest and easiest to use. And we're enabling the agents and the different B2B platforms to actually be issued on our token platform as well.
That's good to have a long-term approach. Now you mentioned the mainnet is coming out in July here, which is 1 month away. What does that mean for the end users? What is going to happen, with Maxonrow as the mainnet comes out?
So the mainnet releases with the wallet and the SDK, and we get to have people start transacting in it. People can hold the tokens in it. They can go through KYC before they do that, of course. And then really, we already have about, I want to say 5 to 10 projects that are going to issue based on the MXW platform and mainnet. So we're going to, with those platforms, we're going to basically listen to the users in terms of how we put in new functions in the future. But it is more of a platform idea, and we did take away a little bit on the flexibility with the emphasis on the ease of use for the businesses that want to issue on there. In other words, you'll be able to issue your tokens through your cell phone, but it may, we'll have to enhance that ability to put functions into that launch process over time. So,
and is that what your development team's focus will be in the next 6 months after the launch?
Yep. It's really just once you've got people using this, once the businesses are starting to issue their tokens on your network, then you get a lot of end user feedback. And we have our product team in place to really take what people are needing and build that into modules. Again, we're built on Tendermint with some of the Cosmos protocol. We actually used some modules to build some of our tech. And so it's a little bit on that, whereas you can make modules and people can action and use those modules rather than a completely open smart contract language. So we believe that's a good development for the B2B user or for the person that wants to issue on their existing business platform or business.
Yeah, that sounds a lot more user-friendly, and that will, of course, help with adoption.
Yeah.
Now, what do you foresee as the challenges or the most challenging thing after you launch the mainnet in terms of growing the business?
It's so funny. I think a lot of businesses are looking for users right away. We actually have a lot of users and we have a lot of interest. The biggest thing is the regulatory scope of this. Regulation is built for centralized nationalist kind of idea. Each region has their own way of dealing with the different regulations across the world. And that regulatory landscape is probably the biggest challenge for us because we want to be KYC, AML compliant. We want that to be automated. We don't want to have any, illegal activities done with our technology, and yet we want to be friendly for businesses to use. So, being that blockchains in essence are global, we instantly have the challenge of making sure we're complying with all those regulations of regions.
It's an interesting twist. Now, are you guys looking for more investors, team members, or just users? And how can they find out more about Maxonrow?
Not really investors at all, but definitely team members. We have some very ambitious plans for both digital assets and securities platforms. We're building a really big team here in KL. We have a team in Taipei. We're even looking into Europe for building another team. So talent is probably the biggest challenge. If you said beyond regulation, it's really just talent. It's having people work work on the protocols themselves. And we just really hope blockchain in general just gets a lot more software engineers involved, a lot more businesses involved, so that the entire ecosystem can grow. Because whenever any interest happens in the industry, it's good for the rest of us.
Mm-hmm. Great. And how can they find out more about the project?
So MXW official on Telegram, MXW.one for the web, and I'm sure if you just search Maxonrow on any platform, our websites will come up.
Awesome. I'll leave the links to that in the description box below. That's all the time we have, but it's been a pleasure speaking to you, Mark, and all of the best on the mainnet launch of Maxonrow and moving forward. So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks a lot, Ashton. It's been my pleasure, and I hope we can do it again soon.